If you love great music and some gentle banter, you're in the right place. Listen to Radio Care, broadcasting from Coventry.
Hello and welcome to Radio Care. I'm Mike Howard. It's another Saturday night and we've got a great show tonight. This show is called March of the Mods, and for anyone that's known me years and years and years and years, I've always been in sort of to the mod scene, even had a scooter at one stage, and I had a nickname Mickey Mod when I was younger and Mikey Mod, and it's kind of sort of stuck with me. So this is an ideal show for me to do tonight. And what I want you to do is just imagine we've gone back to 1964. A lot of Vespers have pulled up outside a cafe, gone into the cafe, and they're playing the sounds that would have been around at that time. So maybe listening to some of the Motown sounds from the early 60s. So this first one to get us started is one by the Marvelettes, and this one is Please Mr. Postman. What a great Motown tune to get us started. That was the Marvelettes and Please Mr. Postman from 1961. It was a debut single for the Marvelettes and on the Tamala Motown label. It says that notable as the first Motown song to reach number one position on the Billboard Hot 100, and the single achieved this position in late of 1961. It was also a hit on the R&B charts, and it also became a hit for other stars. I know the Beatles actually recorded it, the Carpenters later on, and very, very sort of much later. It was used in part of the Portugal the Man. So there we have it, and so welcome if you just joined us tonight. Tonight's show is March of the Mods, and what I'm going to do is take you on a bit of a journey. So we've started in the early 60s, we've just gone into a coffee bar, all the scooters are lined up outside, and we're sticking a few sort of our favourite songs sort of on the jukebox tonight. And you'll notice the sort of Motown sound sort of like to begin with, and then it kind of develops into that sort of R&B rhythm and blues sound that you actually sort of got from the sort of mod bands around in the 60s. Then later on in the show we're going to sort of time travel a bit, and we're going to come up to about 1979 when we got the mod revival. So at around about the same time as the two-tone explosion that I was talking about last week on the Cov Kids show. There was a big sort of mod sort of revival. Lots of sort of youngsters sort of riding scooters. Parkers became sort of fashionable again. People were going down Carnaby Street and sort of meeting up sort of down there. So there was all sorts of things happening. And the bank holiday weekends, people actually sort of like going off to scooter rallies. It became a sort of a big sort of phenomenon sort of at that time. Anyway, let's crack on with the songs from the early 60s. So we're in the sort of dance hall there sort of now, and these are probably some of the songs that you may have heard around about this time. This is 1964. It's Martha Reeves and the Vandellas, and this one is Dancing in the Streets. And that was Dancing in the Streets from Martha Reeves and the Vandellas from 1964. A song written by Marvin Gaye and William Mickey Stevenson and Ivy Jo Hunter. It said it first became popular in 1964 when recorded by Martha Reeves and the Vandellas, whose version reached number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100 charts in the US and got to number 4 on the UK singles charts. It is one of the Motown sort of signature songs, and also when you sort of like think much later on, we had sort of David Bowie and Mick Jagger sort of do a version of it. There's been lots of different covers of songs. I was just sort of reading that like the Kinks have done a version of it, Grateful Dead, Little Richard, the Struts, Mamas and Papas, Van Halen even done a version of it. I'll have to check out some of them ones. And so we're sticking with the 60s sort of sound at the moment, and the sort of Motown sort of sound. So Motown sort of played a big part in the sort of early sort of mod sound. It was where they were sort of like finding sort of like their own sort of sound, really. So it was kind of sort of went with sort of what was being sort of played in the clubs, and was on sort of like the in the coffee bars and sort of stuff like that at the time. So this next one is one by the Chiffons, and this one is He's So Fine.
He's so fine. When she were mine.
And that was the Chiffons and He's So Fine from 1963. Released in early 1963, He's So Fine entered the national charts and attained the number one position. Also remaining number one for 4 weeks period on the Billboard Hot 100 Soul Singles charts. And just trying to see where else it sort of got to. Got to number 16 in the UK. I picked this one actually because one of my favourite films is Quadrophenia, and I know that Quadrophenia was sort of made much later, I think it was about 78, 79 that film was made, but it's set sort of like at that sort of time, around about sort of 1965, 66, sort of like with the sort of bank holiday sort of weekends, and sort of the problems between sort of the mods and rockers in the 60s. So this next one is one from Marvin Gaye. It's one that you'll probably recognise from Paul Young, but originally written and recorded by Marvin Gaye in 1962. But it was released as a B-side to his 1969 hit, Too Busy Thinking About My Baby. And it was nearly 2 decades later that it actually became a number one single for Paul Young. So this one is Wherever I Lay My Hat, That's My Home.
By the look in your eye, I can tell you're gonna cry. Is it over me? If it is, save your tears, for I'm not worth it, you see. Oh, I'm the kind of guy who is always on the road. Wherever I lay my hat, that's my home. Yeah, yeah. You had a romance, did you break it by chance over me? If it's so, I'd like for you to know that I'm not worth it, you see. Oh, I'm the type of guy who is always on the road, yeah. Wherever I lay my hat, that's my home. Yeah, you keep telling your friends that I'm your man. What do I have to do to make you understand? I'm the kind of guy that gives the girls the eye, everybody knows. I love them and I leave them, break their hearts and deceive them everywhere I go. Oh, I'm the type of guy who is always on the road, yeah, yeah. Wherever I lay my hat, that's my home. That's my home. La 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 doo. Oh, yeah.
I actually like that version. That was Marvin Gaye and Wherever I Lay My Hat, That's My Home. From 1962 it was recorded but released as a B-side on the single, as I said earlier, Too Busy Thinking About My Baby in 1969. So the next one's going to be a sound that you probably associate more with sort of mod bands of the 60s. And this one is from a very sort of unknown artist at the time, a very young artist, 17-year-old Davy Jones, and this is his band, Davy Jones and the Lower Third, and the song is called Baby Loves That Way.
Baby likes to go outside, so she treat her like a Rolling toy. Baby loves that way. I love my baby. Baby loves that way. She's too much. Baby loves that way. Yes, he does, yes, he does. Baby loves that
And that was Baby Loves That Way from Davy Jones and the Lower Thirds. It says Baby Loves That Way was recorded in 1965 by David Bowie, so that was his name and his band. I believe he was 17 years old when he was in that band. It says that he took his influence from the Kinks and Herman's Hermits, so I can get that, listening to that sort of style. And very much sort of a beat sort of a sound to it, really, for the time. It says the song was released as a B-side to You've Got a Habit of Leaving, and that was in August 1965. It was only credited as Davy Jones and not Davy Jones and Lower Third, and it does say that it did appear on the album that was released in 1991, which was Early On, so it was the songs from 1964 to 66. And yeah, so that was one sort of from a very, very early David Bowie. So we can't do a mod set, can we, without having The Who on there, and they were sort of very sort of big sort of influence sort of on the sort of mod generation at that time, not only sort of like with the sound sort of their music, but also with the fashion and sort of like, yeah, just sort of that whole I don't know, subcultures or youth culture that was around. They really did, like the Small Faces did, sort of really did sort of encourage the kids sort of like to dress like them, and had some great tunes as well. So this is probably one of my favourite ones from The Who. This one is The Kids Are Alright.
I don't mind the guys dancing with my girl. That's fine. I know them all pretty well, but I know sometimes I must get out in the line. Better leave her behind when the kids are alright. The kids are alright. Sometimes I feel
So there you have it, Radio Care, transporting you from the 60s to present day. Join Mike Howard broadcasting from Coventry to the world.
As I say, there you have it. That's my saying, and I say it every week. That was The Who and The Kids Are All Right from 1965. It appeared on their debut album, My Generation, and was a 7th track on there. It says that The Kids Are All Right was not released as a single until more than 6 months after it first appeared on the LP. First released in the United States and then in the UK the following month. It was not a huge hit, reached number 41 on the UK singles charts, number 85 in the US, but that was only the start of things. You sort of think they'd only just sort of come out, so it was, people just sort of getting used to their sound, and you know how sort of famous they become. Sort of one of my favourite sort of mod bands from the 60s. So another very famous sort of mod influence band was the band Spencer Davis Group, and this one is from 1966, and it's Give Me Some Lovin'. And that was the Spencer Davis Group from 1966 and Give Me Some Lovin'. It got to number 2 on the UK singles charts and number 7 in the US. The song is ranked number 247 on the Rolling Stones magazine list for 500 greatest songs of all time. So welcome if you just joined us on Radio Care. Tonight is dedicated to March of the Mods, so it's a particular type of music that I enjoy, both that of the 60s and of the mod revival, and some of the stuff sort of from the Britpop sort of mod bands sort of at the time. I mean, I did like a lot of the Britpop music, but those that particularly sort of like clung sort of to the the mod sort of movement in the 90s. But tonight I focused on what was happening sort of around in the 1960s, and then sort of the mod revival around about 1978-79 sort of time. So this next one is one from Rod Stewart, and he's singing with a soul singer called P.P. Arnold, who she'd done a lot of stuff with the Small Faces. She's also recorded a lot of solo stuff on sort of one of the artists, including Rod Stewart, that was on the Immediate label, which was very much sort of a mod label sort of for the 60s. And this one is Come Home Baby.
I know just how bad I've hurt you. Oh, yeah. Make it all up to you some way. What can I do just to prove I love you? Should I beg on my knees, baby, please? Come on.
I really like that one. That was Come Home Baby from Rod Stewart and P.P. Arnold. But there was a real sort of super group going on there. So I was just sort of reading, but it was produced by Mick Jagger on the Immediate Records. And there was Ron Wood on guitar, Keith Richards on bass, Nicky Hopkins on electric piano, Keith Emerson on Hammond organ, and the Georgie Fame brass section adding to the song as well. So there was a bit of a super sort of mod band sort of like going on then. I couldn't see whether it was actually released as a single and sort of got anywhere in the charts. I was trying to sort of find the information but couldn't, but that was recorded in 1968. So this next one is one from Ramsey Lewis, also known as the Ramsey Lewis Trio, and it's his rendition of a traditional tune called Wade in the Water, which I think was very much sort of a spiritual sort of a song, sort of going back sort of years and years and years. And Ramsey Lewis has got sort of very much sort of a sort of a jazzy sort of like sound. It's an instrumental song, and a bit like the Booker T and the MG song Green Onions. Very often, you know, with dance halls, they used to sort of put in some instrumental songs, particularly sort of with the Northern Soul scene that sort of became sort of much later, would very often have sort of instrumental songs being played sort of in the dance halls there. Anyway, this one is called Wade in the Water, and it's Ramsey Lewis. And that was Ramsey Lewis and Wade in the Water from 1966. First of the instrumentals I'm playing, I'm just playing a sort of this one and another one a little bit later on. This one reached number 19 on the Billboard Hot 100, got to number 32 in Canada, and it says that the album, also entitled Wade in the Water by Ramsey Lewis, or the Ramsey Lewis Trio, issued in 1966, rose to number 2 on the Billboard Top Soul Albums. So welcome if you've just joined us on Radio Care. Tonight we're playing songs from sort of the mod era, so I've called it March of the Mods, And this one, tonight's show, is sort of dedicated. I've gone sort of like back to about 1964. So I sort of started off the show by saying, just imagine you're at a coffee bar, there's all scooters outside, they're playing music on a jukebox, and these are the kind of sounds that you'll be listening to. Well, the second half of the show is going to be transporting you to the late 70s, when we had the mod revival in the UK. So the sounds are going to have changed quite a bit. There's going to be some of the sort of bands which probably sort of went into sort of a bit of the sort of punk era, but then sort of got a bit disillusioned with the punk and then adopted the sort of mod look and sound, and sort of like really embraced the subculture that was sort of like going on in the late 70s. So this next one is one from the Young Rascals, very famous for their single Groovin', and this is from the album Groovin', which was their third album. The album was released in 1967, and it did actually do quite well. It got to number 5 on the Billboard Top LPs charts, and got to number 7 on the R&B charts. Anyway, this song which I've chosen from there is called A Girl Like You, and it's the Young Rascals.
I don't know what it's all about, but I feel I'll soon find out. I'm sure never felt this secure. It's nothing like I ever thought it would be. Someone opened up a door for me. A girl like you, girl like you. Must be you that caused this feeling in me. You that fills me confidently. You that brings the best out in me. Nobody but you. To figure out what to do, so I'll leave it to you. Only know that when you're away from me, nothing satisfies the need in me for a girl like you. A girl like you. Must be you that caused this feeling in me. You that confidently, you that brings the best out in me. You, nobody, oh yeah, yeah. Every time I'm holding you close to me, trouble's gone, it's gone. I'm in ecstasy with a girl like you. Someone love me, girl like you. Someone to understand exactly like you.
I hadn't heard that one until I was actually sort of researching some of the songs, and I found a site where they were sort of telling me about some of the sort of mod bands or bands that mods may have sort of like listened to, or had a bit of that sort of mod sort of like sound to them. But I really liked that one. That was the Young Rascals and A Girl Like You. So this one, next one, is a very famous one and very sort of much associated sort of with the mod sound, particularly with the dance hall, and it's a very famous scene. I know I mentioned Quadrophenia earlier on, but where they're all doing sort of like the dance to this, I think down in Brighton. This one is Green Onions, and it's Booker T and the MGs. Like I say, that's a very, very famous tune. That was Booker T and the MGs and Green Onions, recorded in 1962. It says, described as one of the most popular instrumental rock and soul songs ever, and as one of the most popular R&B instrumentals of that era. It says Green Onions entered the Billboard Hot 100, peaking at number 3 at the end of September 1962. Single also made it to number 1 on the R&B singles charts for 4 non-consecutive weeks. Also, in 1980, it was released owing to the film Quadrophenia that I mentioned earlier on. It was released in December of 1979, but by January of 1980 it got to number 7 on the UK singles charts and stayed there for 12 weeks. So one of the most famous bands, or one of my favourite bands from the 60s, which was a very much a mod band, besides The Who, was the Small Faces, and this one is one of my faves from them, and this one is Tin Soldier. And that was The Small Faces and Tin Soldier from 1967, written by Steve Marriott and the song peaked at number 9 on the UK singles charts, number 38 in Canada, and has since been covered by many rock artists. It says that the song was actually influenced by Hans Christian Andersen's fairy tale, The Steadfast Soldier, the story of the imperfect tin soldier's desire for a paper ballerina. Opening lyrics is I'm a little tin soldier that wants to jump into your fire. There we have it. That was the Small Faces, like I say. So this next one is probably one of the last ones from the 60s that I'm playing. And again, I couldn't sort of do a mod set without having the Kinks on there. And this is probably one of my favourite ones from the Kinks. This one is Tired of Waiting, and it's 1965.
Till I met you, but you keeping me waiting all of the time. What can I do? It's your life, and you can do what you want. Do what you like, but please don't keep me waiting. Please don't keep me waiting. So tired of waiting for you. So tired of waiting for you. I was a lonely soul, I had nobody till I met you. But you keeping me waiting all of the time. What can I do? It's your life, and you can do what you want. Do what you like, but please don't keep me waiting. Please don't keep me waiting, 'cause I'm so tired of waiting. Tired of waiting for you. So tired of waiting for you. For you.
And that was the Kinks and Tired of Waiting from 1965. Says the song was released in the UK in January 65 and in the US in February 65. Single reached number 1 in the UK and reached number 6 in the US. Appeared on their second studio album, Kinda Kinks, and it was the group's highest charting single in the US until Come Dancing, which was some 18 years later. 1983 got the same chart position in the US. So there we have it. So we're just going to sort of play the link that sort of says a big thank you to the carers, and I'll explain again what I do every week about why I do the show.
RadioCare wants to thank all carers around the world. Paid and unpaid, you are all amazing.
I like to play that one and sort of in there just to sort of say a thank you, as I do every week, to all carers around the world, those that are paid and unpaid, those that are sort of looking after family members, those that are working in domiciliary care, working in residential care, those that are working for the NHS, and all the staff that work for different carer centres up and down the countries. You know, whether you're volunteers that are working there or whether you're actually paid members of staff, the job that you're doing is is amazing, and you're helping a lot of people. So, you know, you need to give yourself some credit and just sort of realise how hard you've all worked through this pandemic. So that's the reason why I do Radio Care. So tonight we're doing the March of the Mods, and we've had a bit of a journey from the 60s or early 60s to late 60s with some of the mod bands that were around that time. And if we sort of skip forward to 1978, 79, there was a big mod revival in the UK. People were buying scooters again, Parkers were being worn, and a lot of those bands that were maybe sort of into or got into the punk scene were dropping this sort of punk image and sound and going for a more cleaner sort of look. Some of them with a cleaner sound, but some of them with a, I don't know, having a bit more of an edge to their sound, so maybe sort of holding on to a bit of that sort of punk sound, but really sort of bringing in this sort of new punk, new mod image at the time. So the first one I'm going to play is from 1980. It's from a band that formed in 1978. They actually split up in 1982. Reformed again in the year 2000s, and I think they still sort of like do sort of gigs from time to time now. The song I'm going to play is from the band Secret Affair, and the song's called My World.
Someone's
that was Secret Affair and My World from 1980. Reached number 16 on the UK singles charts and was from their album Behind Closed Doors. Had very much that sort of 60s sound to it, and considering it was, you know, over a decade after, or probably more than that, when you sort of think of some of the sort of, it's probably about 15 years since you had that real sort of 60s sound sort of like going on. But this was the start sort of the mod revival of the 1978-79 sort of time. And it probably did go on till sort of like the early 80s. And like lots of fashions, they come round again. You know, they just sort of tend to sort of repeat themselves as, you know, new bands that are coming out become influenced by songs of the past. I know for myself, sort of growing up, I was sort of like influenced. I was very influenced by the Beatles, and that was only sort of like because of my parents, but also sort of like the bands like Small Faces and the Kinks. That was sort of like due to what sort of my mum was listening to. So that sort of like was where I got my interest, and then you sort of like evolve with your sound. And the band Seeing Red that I was in, we were very much, we loved that sort of mod sort of like image and sort of like sound, you know, and really sort of like embraced it. And I suppose that was in the 90s. You know, when there wasn't such a big sort of mod revival, it was all Britpop, but it was being sort of like refashioned from sort of like the earlier sort of mod sort of images. Anyway, let's get on with the show. This one is one from the Chords. It's a song called Maybe Tomorrow, and it's from 1980.
Screams aloud and shout aloud, pointing fingers and questions why.
And that was the Chords and Maybe Tomorrow from 1980. I felt they had very much a sound of the Jam, and maybe trying to emulate that sort of sound of the Jam sort of at the time. Says that Maybe Tomorrow got to number 40 and in the UK singles charts from the album So Far Away, which was their debut album. The album reached number 30 on the album's charts, and the cover of the album was inspired by the second LP by the Spencer Davis Group. Yeah, I looked at it earlier on and I thought, well, yeah, kind of sort of done that. All they've sort of done is positioned themselves in a very sort of similar way. So this next one is one from 1979. It's from a band called the Purple Hearts, and the song's called Millions Like Us.
I wonder why we got so much to prove. I wonder why we carry on like we do. Saturday night and Sunday morning, I've just woken up but I'm still yawning. Millions like us, so yes there's millions like us. With tunnel vision, making decisions. Everybody's living in their private hell. That's a sinking feeling you know so well. And people die a little more every day, and you know it's their fault. They stay that way. Millions like us, so yes there's millions like us. With tunnel vision, making decisions. You can live by yourself and for yourself. You can survive on anything at all. But unless you're putting something in you, get nothing out, you'll never win. I say millions like us, so yes there's millions like us. With tunnel vision, making decisions. Millions like us, so yes there's 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 millions like us.
And that was the Purple Hearts and Millions Like Us from 1979. So they were a English mod revival band that formed in 1977 in Romford. They were considered one of the best English mod revival groups by NME, calling them one of the few mod bands to actually cut it on the rock and roll terms. Millions Like Us reached number 57 in the UK singles charts. The band then toured the UK with Secret Affair and Back to Zero on the March of the Mods tour in 1979. And there's an album sort of like for the March of the Mods, which you can still sort of download today. So that was the Purple Hearts. Now this next group, I'd never really heard of them, but they came up sort of on the list, and sort of reading through the information, it says that they're loosely sort of associated with the mod revival era of the late 70s. They're a band called Jet Set, and the song I've chosen is called Wednesday Girl. It's from 1983, and it says the band took sort of the sort of mod revival thing to another level. Not only did they recreate the sound of the 60s pop, they also attempted to mirror the careers of their myths, of their idols, near Ruttles-esque. Attempting a media blitz which included proposed television series, Christmas greeting, flexi singles, comic strips, trading cards. They really thought they were the Monkees, basically. And anyway, I'll play this one. This one's called Wednesday's Girl.
Thursday, here comes another week. Friday, I'm standing on her street. When the weekend comes and Monday goes, look out for the one with painted toes. Wednesday girl, here she comes. Wednesday girl, here she comes. Wednesday girl, here she comes now. Sometimes there's flowers on her shoes. Sometimes I don't know what to choose. When it's Tuesday night I never sleep. She's the only girl I want to keep. Wednesday girl, here she comes. Wednesday girl, here she comes. Wednesday girl, here she comes now. Here she comes now. When it's Tuesday night I never sleep. She's the only girl I want to keep. Wednesday girl, here she comes. Wednesday girl, here she comes. Wednesday girl, here she comes now. Here she comes now. Here she comes. Wednesday girl, here she comes. Wednesday girl, here she comes. Wednesday girl, here she comes now.
If you love great music and some gentle banter, you're in the right place. Listen to Radio Care, broadcasting from Coventry.
Absolutely, broadcasting from Coventry in the West Midlands, as I do every week. I told you that was a weird one. That was a Jet Set and Wednesday's Girl. I can see where they're trying to recreate a bit of that sort of 60s sound, but to me that just sort of sounded like they were trying to sort of be sort of like a Monkees type sort of thing. But, you know, someone liked them. So, yeah, it was on sort of one of the lists sort of for mod bands, although the information there says they were loosely associated with the mod revival of the late 70s. So this next one is from a band called Squire, and they were a supporting band for the Jam in their hometown concert sort of in Surrey in 1978. And following this, Squire's first record, Get Ready to Go, in February 79, they became the leaders of the UK mod revival scene, along with the Purple Hearts, the Chords and Secret Affair, appearing on the legendary Mod's Mayday album, and joined I Spy Records releasing Walking Down King's Road. And on the flip side is the one I'm going to play in a minute. It's a Mod World. And there was 2 more singles appeared, Face of Youth Today and My Mind Goes Round in Circles, with guest vocals from Kirsty MacColl at the time. Anyway, this one is called It's a Mod World, and it's from 1979, and it's Squire.
It's a mod world. It's a mod world. Yes, it's a mod world. Immediate reactions, fashion trends and gadgets. It's a mod world. Got a fun on my scooter with you. Up to Boxer on a Sunday afternoon. Immediate reactions, fashion trends and gadgets. It's a mod world. It's a mod world today. Well, it's fabulous down in Carnaby Street. Immediate reactions, fashion trends and gadgets. It's a mod world. And it's ready, steady, go on my SX200. Immediate reactions, fashion trends and gadgets. It's a mod world. It's a mod world today. I've got a job as a junior hairdresser. I'm not the best, it's not that much, but I stay 'cause I want money for clothes. I just have money for clothes. But it's a mod world. It's a mod world. Immediate reactions, fashion trends and gadgets. It's a mod world. Got a plan on my scooter with you. Up to Boxer on a Sunday afternoon. Immediate reactions, fashion trends and gadgets. It's a mod world. It's a mod world today. It's a mod world today. It's a mod world today. Today, I said today.
Yeah, I like that one. That was It's a Mod World from Squire from 1979. You can sort of hear that jam sort of influence sort of like going on there, but yeah, I can see why they were quite a popular band sort of at the time. So this next one is one from the Jam. They were probably one of my sort of favourite bands of the mod sort of revival. I know that they sort of like jumped on the punk sort of bandwagon sort of when they brought their first album out, but they had sort of like really sort of stuck to their sort of mod sort of roots, and very quickly, you know, kept that sort of sharp image and just had that bit of edge to their sound. But this one is a song called Strange Town from 1979, and yeah, I'll tell you a bit more in a minute.
Found myself in a strange town, though I've only been here for 3 weeks now. I've got blisters on my feet, trying to find a friend in Oxford Street. I bought an A to Z guidebook, trying to find a class of YMCA's. But when you
And that was The Jam and Strange Town from 1979. It appeared, it was released as a single, and the B-side was The Butterfly Collector. And it does say that the single, or The Butterfly Collector, actually only appeared on the Canadian pressing of Setting Sun. Setting Suns is probably one of my favourite Jam sort of albums. But I'm just trying to see where Strange Town sort of like got to. It says that it reached number 15 on the UK singles charts, and in 1983 it was certified silver for 250,000 sales, and I think that would be because appearing on the Greatest Hits album Snap, and then in 1996 the Jam Collection compilation, as well as on Snap. There we go. So this next one is one from a band called Long Tall Shorty, and this one is By Your Love.
I was lit up by your love, to be set up by your love. I was lit up by your love, to be set up by your love. I never asked you home at night. I never told you my name. The way you looked at me so right. Yeah, the way you lit my flame. I was lit up by your love, to be set up by your love. I was lit up by your love, to be set up by your love. I never thought it'd happen this way. I never felt so much fear. I guess you thought you'd hear me say, perhaps another life, my dear. I was lit up by your love, to be set up by your love. I was lit up by your love, to be set up by your love. I was lit up by your love, to be set up by your love. I was lit up by your love, to be set up by your love. I never asked you home at night. I never told you my name. The way you looked at me so right. Yeah, the way you lit my flame. I was lit up by your love, to be set up by your love. I was lit up by your love, to be set up by your love.
And that was Long Tall Shorty and By Your Love from 1979. Long Tall Shorty were a band that formed in London in 1978. They recorded several singles before splitting up in 1982, when the lead singer Tony Perfect left to join the Angelic Upstarts. They did reform in 2000, and they have recorded and released several albums. It doesn't say whether there was any sort of chart position for this one, but it says that By Your Love, B-side was the 1970s Boy, and released in 79. So welcome to people who sort of like joined us a little bit later tonight. It's so nice sort of like to see the numbers sort of gone up. I was looking earlier on and I thought there's not too many people on here, but I'm quite happy. We're up to 7,708 people listening, so thank you for joining us on Radio Care. I hope you're enjoying the show tonight. Tonight's show is March of the Mods, so I've been playing tunes. If you don't get a chance, or you will get a chance, so when I upload it later on to Spreaker, and Spotify and Apple Podcasts and all the other ones I can upload them to. You can listen to the whole show. But basically, I've gone for the mod sort of sounds of the 60s and then sort of jumped ahead to the mod revival of the late 70s. And there's a few songs sort of in the 80s as well as sort of the mod sort of influence, or mod bands were sort of fading out at that time. So this next one, I sort of, it was only sort of like through looking at the mod sort of list of artists the other day, and there's an artist called Eleanor Rigby, and I don't know how I'd never sort of listened to her really, because I've been listening sort of like to more of her stuff really, and I really liked it. So the song that I've actually sort of chosen tonight by Eleanor Rigby was from 1985, and it's a song called I Want to Sleep With You, and she really embraced sort of like the modette sort of image. She really sort of went for that Carnaby Street sort of fashion. I think she's done some modelling, but just the modelling for sort of like the mod outlets sort of on Carnaby Street and that. She turned down offers to sort of like be a model for anyone else or for any other reason. So she really sort of stuck to sort of her beliefs about sort of following sort of the mod way of life. This one is called I Want to Sleep With You, Eleanor Rigby.
Switch on the radio. A message on the answer phone says, ring me at home. It's broken but I recognize your voice.
And that was Eleanor Rigby and I Want to Sleep With You from 1985. The single was actually banned. It was seen as being too controversial. She had another single called Over and Over, which was probably her most popular. And she actually had a #1 hit in Italy with the Bond theme, You Only Live Twice. And also a track, Think For Yourself. She sort of disappeared sort of through the 90s and that, and I was trying to see whether there's any information about her since, but they were saying that she was very much sort of liked by sort of like Blur and Oasis. They sort of named her as one of their sort of mod influences. You know, so if anyone sort of like knows sort of a bit more about sort of this Eleanor Rigby and, you know, whether she sort of carried on sort of singing or whatever she sort of went to do, put something sort of on the chat or on the Facebook page, and that it's just interesting sort of like to know, because just disappeared. I couldn't sort of like see anything else on there, but I was reading the bit that I did sort of find that sort of said that her concerts were always sort of really, you know, she sold out sort of her shows and sort of like did sort of really well. So this next one is one from the Merton Parkers. It's Put Me in a Picture, and it's from 1979. That was a short one. That was the Merton Parkers and Put Me in a Picture from 1979. The mod revival band from the Merton area of South London. And they are, I think they're sort of brothers, Danny and Mick Talbot, Neil Hurrell and Simon Smith. Now, Mick Talbot went on to join Paul Weller in the Style Council. It says the single was from 1980. The band's most notable track is You Need Wheels, which reached number 40 on the UK singles charts in the summer of 79, as this was their only success in the charts and was regarded as a one-hit wonder. So even the one sort of I played wasn't sort of like a notable sort of track really for them. We are sort of zipping through the set. There's only sort of probably about 4 more songs left to play, but I'm not doing too bad. We'll sort of get in there. So this one is one from 9 Below Zero, and I remember seeing them on The Young Ones. If anyone remembers The Young Ones show that used to be on BBC Two, I think, sort of going back to about 1981-82 sort of time, and this song was the one that they actually performed on there, and it's called 11+11.
Push around and come here, oh, lucky to be out of jail. I got nothing to do but stand around here playing with my cue ball. I've got nothing to do. 11+11, I had more to do when I was 7. 11+11, more to do when I was 7. Nothing in the world these days. Your man, you got nothing in the world these days. Thank you.
And that was 9 Below Zero and 11+11 from 1981. It was released on their second album, Don't Point Your Finger. And I'm sure I saw them, I've seen them twice actually. I'm sure I saw them support Ultravox in 1986. But I wasn't too sure about them sort of then. But then probably about 15 years ago. I went to that was like a festival in Suffolk, and they were one of the bands. I think it was when Susie Quattro was on, and 9 Below Zero came on, and they were like the best band that actually sort of played that day. I really enjoyed them. It says that they also supported the Kinks and the Who on sort of various tours. I'm just trying to see where this single actually got to. 11 plus a lesson. No, it doesn't actually sort of give the information about where the single got to, but it says the album got to number 38 on the album charts. So this next band I hadn't heard of, they were sort of quite sort of a popular one, sort of from the mod revival. They were a band called the Kilometers, and the song is Back to Business. Now it says the Kilometers began as a punk rock band in 1977, and when, like thousands of others across the country, they swapped their clothes, modified their rock and R&B sound, and took a lot of speed. They were the best and most energetic band in the industrial Yorkshire town of Huddersfield, and they played all the clubs and pubs venues up north. So this one is called Back in Business, and I think this was their sort of nod to the sort of mod style, saying we've got rid of the punk image, here we are, we're mods now. And that was the Kilometres and Back in Business from 1978. Oh, nearly missed the year off. So we're getting very, very, very near the end of the set. There's just two more songs to play. Hope you've enjoyed what I played tonight. I've enjoyed putting this set together, particularly sort of like the earlier ones from the 60s and the mod revival stuff. Some of the stuff I hadn't heard sort of in the mod revival era, but definitely sort of like, because I was sort of more into sort of like the more sort of retro sort of sound, and probably liked some of the more popular bands, but it's been a really good sort of experience and of interest, really, sort of putting this set together for me. I sort of really enjoyed it. So this next one is by a band called The Circles. The song's called Private World, and it's from 1979. Now, I was trying to sort of find out a bit of information about them. Formed in the West Midlands, and it didn't sort of give much sort of details on that, but then I found a recent sort of recording of them, and it looks like they're in the Wolverhampton area, so that's probably sort of gauging sort of roughly sort of where I have to sort of imagine where they are. And they formed in 1979. And I think they sort of did sort of split up for a little while, and then they sort of got back together, and they've been sort of like doing stuff on and off for years and years. They were one of the bands that were on the legendary Mods Mayday sort of tour, and the album of 1979. This one is called Private World.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. We are The Circles, as you know, and this is called Private World. I don't have to listen to anything you say. I got my own life to lead. With no hesitation, I'll be on my way. You're the last one I need. You think that you own me? Well, that's where you're wrong. 'Cause no one owns me. It's no good you saying where we went wrong. It don't matter to me. It's my life, and I'll do what I want. And there's nothing gonna hold me down. It's no good putting words in my head, 'cause words are just a sound. In my private world, I can do anything I want to. In my private world, I can say what I wanna say. In my private world, can be anyone I want to. In my private world, where everything's okay. It's okay. It's okay. this is hot.
Judging by that accent at the end, I'm sure that was a sort of a black country accent. Had to be. Anyway, that was the Circles and Private World from 1979. So sadly, we've reached the end of the set tonight. I hope you've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed sort of playing the tunes. And I thought what a nice way sort of to finish the set would be to go back and pick one from the 60s. And I've chosen a band from Hertfordshire who initially sort of like started off in that sort of mod sort of fashion and sort of like style, and then sort of like adapted sort of more into a bit of a rock sort of look and sound. And this one is one from the Zombies. It's from 1967 and it's called Time of the Season. So all that's left for me to say is have a great weekend, and hopefully you can tune in next week. I think next week's show is probably going to be on a Sunday, but if you check the Facebook page or the Castor FM page, that'll sort of keep you up to date sort of with the details. Anyway, have a good weekend, stay safe, and yeah, catch you next week. Bye.
It's the time of the season when love runs high. In this time, give it to me easy and let me try with pleasured hands to take you in the sun to promised lands, to show you everyone. It's the time of the season for loving. What's your name? Who's your daddy? Is he rich like me? Has he take us anytime to show you what you need to live? Tell it to me slowly, tell you why I really want to know. It's the time of the season for loving. What's your name? Who's your daddy? Is he rich like me? Has he taken anytime to show you what you need to live? Tell it to me slowly, tell you why I really want to know. It's the time of the season for loving.
If you love great music and some gentle banter, you're in the right place. Listen to Radio Care, broadcasting from Coventry.